This guy, I've known him for a long time. He's opened for Larry the Cable Guy, among many things. You've seen him on random specials. You know, one of those comedians that pops up all the time on Comedy Central or VH1 or whatever. But I've known him for a long time, and this is one of the best Zooms we've ever done. So let's enjoy this awesome Zoom interview with the one and only Reno Collier.
I remember when I was a kid, they never let me ask any questions. The teacher would be like, all right, boys and girls, everybody open up your books, page 52. All right, kids, look at the diagram. Check this out. A long, long time ago, all of us in here used to be monkeys, right? Then we turned into this Chewbacca circus carnival freak show looking thing, but now we're all people. Next chapter, move on, no questions. Well, guess what? I had questions. How come monkeys are the only animals that were ever allowed to turn into people? Yeah, how come there's no two-legged giraffe with a short neck walking around vaping? Because it ain't real. Yeah, not to mention the fact we still got monkeys.
Oh, man. And we have him right here, the Reno Collier. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man.
It's good to see your face. I haven't seen you physically in a minute.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the last. I used to see you a lot, and then a long time ago.
Right.
You know, years ago in Raleigh and all over the place.
Atlanta Punchline.
Yeah, it's been a while. I miss you, dude. You always were one of those guys that made me laugh every time I saw you, whether it was at the show, but more off stage. Like you've just always. I don't know if we have the same sensibility or what it is, but you've always made me laugh.
Same here about you. I remember, gosh, I mean, you and may he rest in peace, Michael Roof Chicken. I remember you guys pairing up and doing a thing at Good Nights called the Chunky Chicken Show.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking, damn it, man, I want a funny friend like that to do something with that. Because the comics I started with, I knew him, but I didn't know him good enough to do something like that. I'd never even dabbled into improv or sketch. And I felt like, and you guys around my age, I'm thinking, they're too young to have all this great stuff going on at one time. So can you tell me about how that whole thing started and maybe talk a little bit about Michael Roof?
Yeah, man. So he and I met in Birmingham at the Stardome. And he came in. I was featuring. Larry the Cable Guy was headlining. And Michael came in. He went by Chicken to MC, right? Mm-hmm. And it was the first week he'd ever MC'd. He shows up. He has one pair of shorts and like 3 cut off. Remember those practice jerseys you wore under your shoulder pads?
Yeah.
For football. He had 3 shirts like that. He comes in the back room. And I remember I was sitting there drinking a beer and I did a shot with somebody. You remember how we used to do
Sure.
it? It was like, did a shot. He comes in and he's like, oh my God. He's like, my back. And I'm like, what's wrong? And he's like, I'm so sunburned. And I was like, from what? And he goes, I rode my motorcycle from Denellen, and he had a Ninja. He was on the road in a freaking Ninja. He rode it like 9 hours, and he only had these short, and he was sunburned. He had no pants. He broke down. He was a mess, right? And we were a mess. But I mean, this was like a full blown. He had his plastic bag with his shirts in it, and he's like, "This is great. I've never been to a club, like this. I've only done like whatever." And he was all excited, and I'm like, "What in the hell?" And he went out on stage, and was just you can't even explain it. Like it was. He was jumping off. He jumped out in the crowd on top of somebody's table, and he was humping him in the head.
Yeah.
And like at one point during the week, he humped somebody in the head and put his hand on top of their head and ripped a wig off.
Oh.
And he's holding the wig, and he's like, yeah. And I'm going like, what is wrong with this kid, right? But it was so intriguing.
Yeah.
So we became friends, and we started goofing around and doing stuff. And I was the house MC in Birmingham.
Okay.
For most of the time, and then they'd let me feature whatever, and I lived in that hotel. And so a headliner wasn't coming in for the weekend. And Michael and I had been doing earlier in the week, right? And Bruce Ayers was going like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like the show was that night. And Michael and I were like, dude, we'll do it.
Right.
And he's like, I don't know if you have the time. And we're like, no. We're going to come up with these sketches and we're going to do them at the end. Right. So we stayed in that club on that stage with an empty room for like 6 hours that day, putting together what we were going to do that night.
Oh, wow.
And the whole thing, dude, it was so, I mean, just all over the place. Like one of the things was like, he'd be sitting, stuff you could never do now. Right. Like we did a thing called Flea Market Magic, where we got stuff that looked like it was all from a flea market. And he had like a magician hat and a wand. And he'd throw this dirty sheet over me and turn me into different stuff, right? And it was stuff that like you'd never be like. One time he pulls it off, and I had one of those like Vietnamese hats on, and I was like, he turned me into like an Asian guy. I mean, it was so terrible and bad, but the crowd went berserk because they could tell. They were like, we don't even know what we're watching. Like we did a tuna fish commercial where he's sitting on a stool and he starts opening up a can of tuna fish, and that song, they call him Flipper, that's playing through the speakers. And I come out and I have a t-shirt on that says dolphin, and I'm like hung up in a net. And he's opening the thing and he sees me in the net and he starts hitting me with a microphone. Then he shoves the tuna fish in my mouth. And there's stuff like all over the floor. We were doing shots. There were broken bottles. And at the end of it, the crowd's going nuts. And we're like, thank you. Good night. And we invited everybody to a bar across the street. And the place was packed, right? They used to give away those tickets. The place was packed and we invited. So then there's like 2 bartenders in this bar and we go over there. It's called Gabriel's. With like 250 people. Yeah. And we pile in and they're like, what is going on? And we're like, blah, blah. So behind the bar, they had an Auburn helmet facing an Alabama helmet, right?
Yes, okay.
So we're in there and we're celebrating. You've been there.
I have. I'm trying to, this helmet thing is starting to bring back a memory, but keep going.
So the helmets are like from the 70s, and they're facing each other, right? And you know how everybody in Alabama is either Auburn or Roll Tide,
right.
You know, one or the other. So we're doing shots, and all the people from the show were there. And I mean, this is like a full-blown disaster for this place we're in. So we go, hey, give us the helmets. I don't remember which one of us said first, right? So like he puts on this Alabama helmet, and I put on an Auburn helmet. Now the bars separate. So all the Auburn people go with me. You know where the front door is? Yeah. So we go to that side. He lines up at the other side. And we get down to the 3-point stance. And we're going to smash into each other. And people are like, Roll Tide, War Eagle. We take off running at each other. Now, mind you, at the time, I'm like 25 and he's like 21. Yeah. We go running towards each other. We both put our helmets down, smash into each other, and we go through a trophy case that used to be on the back of that thing. Glass breaks, the whole thing smashes, and people are like, yeah! So I'm jacked up. I have glass in my arms and my legs, and there was a nurse that was there. They had me on the food prep table in the back of this bar, and she's pulling glass out. I still have the helmet on. They never even kicked us out, right? Nothing even changed. Like we were doing shots. I still had the helmet on. So the next morning in that Holiday Inn, remember the one that had the pond?
Yes.
Down there in Hoover?
Yep.
So the phone rings, and it's Bruce Ayers. And he's like, you asshole. Excuse me. Can I cuss on you?
Yeah. You say anything you want.
Yeah. He's like, you assholes, go down to Gabriel's and tell Jack you're sorry for what you did. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you guys destroyed that place. Go down there right now. So I'm like, oh, man. So I call Michael's room. I'm like, dude, meet me in the lobby. We got to go apologize to that guy Jack for last night. So he comes walking the lobby. Now, I haven't seen myself yet, right? I have 2 circles indented in my forehead, and he did too, because the helmets didn't have pads in them. They just had those metal, clip things. So, and we're both have these purple dots stuck in the middle of our head. And I'm like, dude, and I'm laughing at him and he's laughing at me and my head is pounding with tequila and cigarette, just we got to go down there, right? So we go down to Gabriel's, we walk in the door, we open up the door and Jack's sweeping up glass. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. And we're like, Jack, we both had probably $50 to our name. total, you know? And I'm like, Jack, we're so sorry, man. Bruce told us to come down and we're going to pay for what we did. And he's like, you guys broke the sink with that hooker? And we're like, what? I go, no, we broke the trophy case. He's like, I don't give a shit about the trophy case. He goes, I want to know who had the prostitute in the bathroom after hours when they locked up and she was sitting on the sink and fell and broke and an ambulance had to come get her out. I was like, that wasn't us. He's like, I don't give a shit about the dream. He's like, who did that? We're like, it wasn't us. We're calling Bruce. We're like, he doesn't even care, man. We're fine. We're fine.
Right? If you want to watch the whole version, the entire episode, click on this little square right here. Or if you just want to subscribe and watch them later, click on that little bubble right there. And thank you.